about picking up collective stuff. Because when we're upgrading and awakening, we pick it up.
Oh gosh. Okay. We're
Yes.
back again then this week. A whole week's gone since I spoke with Alicia.
It's hard to believe, isn't it?
Honestly, yeah, flying. So yes, we're doing this every Wednesday at 4 o'clock UK time, which is 11 o'clock
11
your time. Yeah,
Eastern Standard, yes.
in Canada, yes. And sorry, I've still got a bit of a throat going on.
Oh, I wonder why that's coming up right now.
Oh
Just
yeah.
just as we went live. That's interesting.
Say it though, because I was talking fine just then.
I'm just going to check in on that, what that's all about, because we can. Also, both of us had some internet issues this morning. I just had a Wi-Fi issue just now,
Yeah,
preventing us from being on the Zoom, and you had also had some internet issues. So I'll let you go ahead and talk while I tune in on what this is.
wonderful. So each week we're going to talk about the awakening and what the awakening means for us. And straight away, I'm going to just talk about the amount of sunlight that's coming in on Alicia and how good that is. Really, how good that is for us. Not to wear dark glasses, not to block it out, just to accept. And ours has been amazing today because yesterday, was it yesterday? Yeah. The rain that we had here yesterday was unbelievable. I was going to say odds to no one.
We had more snow, more blizzards, more dark skies. So this is just literally, I'm like drinking it. I said to Jack before we got on, I said, okay, if I just sit in the sun while we do this, because it feels so good.
Honestly, the vitamin D, the nutrients, everything that you get from the sunlight is just so good for us. And we're told to wear sunglasses, but really, I mean, you don't have to look direct at it, but for it to be shining on you is so good. So while Alicia's doing that, I'm going to just read this bit that I've got ready for talking about the awakening, and then we'll go on to what we want to talk about. So awakening today isn't about becoming something more. It's about remembering who we already are. It's an awakening to ourselves beneath the noise, the labels, and the expectations that we've picked up along the way. Beneath all of that, there's a quiet awareness that's steady, present, and whole. It's an awakening to the truth that we are not separate as we've been taught to believe. When we really look, we see the same hopes, fears, and longings for connection in one another. And from that understanding, compassion naturally grows. Awakening is also about recognizing our own light, not in a way that makes us feel above anyone else, but in a way that reminds us that we do matter, that our voice matters, and our presence matters. It invites us to stop blindly following a crowd and start listening inward, to trust our own experience, to live from what feels true rather than what's expected. And maybe, most of all, awakening is a return to love, not as an idea, but as a way of being, how we speak with love, how we listen with love, how we treat ourselves and others with love. It's not dramatic or distant, it's quiet, it's simple, and it's a remembering. And it begins the moment that we choose to be honest, present, and kind with ourselves first. 3 questions that we could ask ourselves. Does this actually feel true to me? Am I living from fear or from awareness? Am I listening to my own inner knowing? Awakening today often looks very ordinary, choosing authenticity over approval, slowing down in a world that rushes, listening instead of reacting, trusting yourself even when the path isn't popular. It's less about ascending and it's more about coming home.
Which is what we talked about last week.
Yes.
The the word ascending, it is ascending, is coming home. It's coming home to your heart, your connection to source, to God, and to each other. That was beautiful.
Well, honestly, I know when I first started going, with Tim Wilde, all the different things that we were doing, presenting and listening to him all the time, because I didn't really understand what the ascension process meant. It was all so new to me. And I honestly worried that if you weren't ascending, if you weren't aware of your own light or inner knowing, um, you'd have to make a choice whether you go ascend and leave your family that's not there.
Right.
Yeah, I thought there
Which,
was going to be a
which is
separation.
funny, which is funny because to some degree, and I'm sure everyone listening can attend to understand this or let us know if this makes sense. But to some degree, we are separating from family and friends. Those of us who are here in this awareness of the fact that we are awakening and that there is work to be done on our own sort of traumas and triggers and how we're showing up in the world and how, that's a lot. And that conscious awareness of that, not everyone around us as individuals are on that same path. And so it can be really hard, and it almost is like leaving people behind. It feels like
Exactly.
that. Or leaving yourself behind if, if you don't honor what you're going through in your own process and what you understand the world to be.
Exactly. And then you pick up more and more as you go along the different people that you know, their understanding, and then what resonates as truth for you. So, what I've heard since that is that we can live together, but we still have that knowing and that awareness. And we respect each other's where they are.
Right. And everyone is in a different place.
Yes,
Every one of us is.
every one of us. But we are not separate.
No.
Nothing separate.
And in
You know,
fact,
yeah,
I was just going to say that because in spirituality we've been this oneness, we are all one, has been kind of like said for a long time.
yes,
And I think now some of us really kind of understand what that means. I was talking to you earlier about the emotions that I was moving through Monday and Tuesday. So Monday felt like a lot of anger and frustration and irritability, actually. And I am aware because I've been doing this a long time and I'm in sort of a multidimensional reality all the time. I'm not just sort of, oh, I feel like this because of this anymore. Um, but I also know what questions to ask. So I tuned in if this was all mine. And on Monday, it wasn't. So I was actually tuning into to anger and irritability and overwhelm of collective. So that's actually a repercussion of being all one. Because if I'm consciously then picking up off of the emotions of the collective, then I am consciously connected as one. So I wanted to say that because some of you might actually be moving through that, and to have awareness of your emotions and not to bypass them, to be in them.
mhm,
And I had to phone a friend, so hopefully you guys have some people in our audience have someone that they can sort of download to, or I went outside and had a walk. I had to do those things in order to move the energy out. But I
brilliant.
was aware that that wasn't mine necessarily. But that also is an indicator if you're picking up off of the emotions of others, that could be grief, that could be anger, that could be fear. That also is an indicator that you're rising higher. Okay, you're clearing more dense debris. If you're getting more sensitive, um, and maybe we all thought kind of that was a bad thing way back when. Okay, but if you're becoming more sensitive, it's because you are more heightened in your awareness of energy and those around you. And so it's not a bad thing. You just have to learn to manage it and understand it.
That's it. I was always told you're too sensitive. You shouldn't take things to heart. Da da da. And then
Mhm.
one day I thought, do you know what? I'm just going to love the fact that I am sensitive and I do take things to heart, and I'll just go with that because that's who I am and what I am, and nothing's ever changed because I've never got any harder or strong, things like that. I
However,
just feel,
you've also learned to protect your boundaries better.
well, absolutely.
I certainly have in the
But
last
that's an
7, 8 years.
ongoing process. That's not a quick
Yes.
fix. It's not a quick, easy thing to do. Boundaries, well, even this year, I did a thing with Tim at the early part of the year to talk about boundaries. Be Not this year, last year, because I had that situation around the Christmas time that I definitely allowed my boundaries to be crossed, or and yeah, quite upsetting for a while. Yeah, that I had to try and clear it for myself. And then he said, "Oh, let's do an evening about boundaries," and we did, yeah, which was great because then I really looked into what that means for me to put boundaries up, and it is okay to say no.
It is okay to say
You
no.
know,
Yeah.
I've always been a bit, wanting others to like me, be a people pleaser, and that's not, yeah, not a great thing to be. So to realize in that talk that I said at the very start, we are all one. There is no separation, but you do have to take care of yourself within that and within the boundaries
Right.
of that.
And we also talked back then, as you were moving through that, about it can't be just all love and light. Like there is more to it than that. And
Yes.
that's for yourself, right? Because if it is just all love and light, then you probably are bypassing things. And the truth is that this stuff is bubbling up,
Mm.
our lack of boundaries, our own anxieties, our own fears, things that are still living in our bodies in fields. They're living in all of our bodies, in our physical body, in our emotional body, in our energetic body, in our biofield, and these things have to come up. And so it's really quite complicated now for those of us on this path if you don't understand that, because you're just going to assume, that you're upset because of a current situation. But during that time, it wasn't just about one thing, and it was sort of one of your big life sort of lessons that you needed to move through regarding what boundaries really mean,
Because we
and
never
not
never stop learning. And it's just such a good thing to understand. I mean, that had to happen. And you can thank the situation that it did happen because it really made me appreciate, I have to have boundaries for myself.
yeah.
Yes. And that's an ongoing process. It's not a quick fix thing.
No, and it's not comfortable moving through it. Speaking of quick fixes, the other challenge with what we're moving through right now, you were talking about the doctor's office. I know it was the foot doctor, but I'll let you tell that story in a minute. But the other challenge we're moving through right now is there isn't a quick fix. So when I was moving through, so even yesterday, I had Monday was anxiety, or sorry, anger, frustration. Tuesday afternoon, so not even all day, later in the afternoon I could identify it as anxiety. Um, so there's no quick fix to that. There's no pill to take. And I think we're moving out of a time, this is all about our awakening, right? Where we were in a system that just gives you the quick fix, whatever that may be, right? And also the anxiety then becomes like a condition, right? But what if it's just an emotion that needs to be felt and brought up? So I could do the deeper work, right? Because I've trained myself to not assume, make no assumptions, and to not be in judgment. I could feel the anxiety, I could identify where it was, but I know that, and I can check. So I did. And this time it was mine. And so there was something that needed to come up and I needed to go through it. And there's not a pill for that. There's not and we're moving out of a reality, a very dualistic, polarized reality where it's either this or that, it's this solution or that solution, or let's fix it. But it doesn't quite look like that where we're all going and where we all are now. Because if you're watching this, you're here with us in this conscious awareness. So you're dealing
How
with
did
all
you
of these
go
things.
through it though?
Oh, that's a good question. So, number one, you have to identify it. So I can't just ignore it. I can't power through. You have to actually identify it. And then I go through. I use my truth testing. So my body pendulum, my pendulum to ask, is this mine? So yesterday was mine. I'm assuming some of it was collective as well, but it was different versions of me. And so another clue to ask yourself when you're moving through something like that, it could be guilt, it could be shame, it could be fear, it could be any emotion, really, overwhelm, stress. You need to think of these emotions, they're low vibration emotions, but they're calls to action. That's really what we need to remember. Okay. So I see these things as call to actions now. It's taken me a long time to get there. And sometimes I am just kicking and screaming and wanting it to go away. I am human. Um,
Yes.
but an understanding that this is still living in my field or that I am a resonance to it, if it is coming from outside. And then also I was noticing, I have been noticing um, looping thoughts, and my guides have been showing me infinity signs a lot. And so they're telling me that right now what we're moving through also is a lot of looping thoughts. So I'm wondering if anyone who's watching right now can identify with this. And maybe you weren't even aware of it before I said it just now. But looping thoughts are a real a problem right now. And it's because of everything kind of coming at us in the media and all the things, right?
Exactly. Yes.
So that was what I identified. Number one was the looping thoughts, and they were oh, and I'm wearing my infinity sign today, so it must be all about it's been all about the infinity. There's always like one particular sign that comes up more and more, and on my pendulum just keeps doing this infinity thing. So I feel like I'm supposed to bring this up. So the looping thoughts were creating some anxiety. So what I said to my group yesterday was that we have to come back to stillness. And I said this to my group, and I'm saying it to myself as a mirror, that taking some time to quiet the mind. And I know when it's too much, when I start getting overstimulated by even a TV show, right? Like I know there's too much. And the anxiety is the call to action that there's something happening here that needs to be looked at. And I've been getting extra sensitive to TV shows and movies. I had my partner, I made him turn off a YouTube video of some band because it was like literally like just ugh. It was so bad, and so acknowledging your sensitivities, actually identifying the emotion, that's another piece that's really important. Identifying the emotion. If anyone wants ever any extra sort of work or recommended reading, the emotion code is excellent.
Oh, I got
um,
it. Yeah.
yeah, so I highly recommend a read of that so you can kind of understand what this is. So I identified anxiety and overwhelm and breathing. And then I just had to take a time out. I went upstairs, I put on just meditative music because I didn't want to actually plug into anything necessarily. Because I could feel the sensitivity. So when that happens, instead of fearing, because the looping thought is, oh, it's happening again. I'm going back there. I'm going to be in anxiety, or I'm going to feel like I can't really cope, or it's too much.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're sitting in that for a while, and if it doesn't sort of clear within a day, then you really got to figure out what it is. There's something there that's being that your bodies and fields are asking you to look at. And actually, specifically, there was a version of me from a year ago at this time that needed to come up. So I can check that, right? So I got the drop under and I check. And and another thing that's interesting for everyone watching is sometimes the emotion is not yours. Sometimes you're just actually going through an energetic upgrade. So you're extra sensitive and you're picking it up off the collective. Okay. Sometimes it's actually triggered, but remember, trigger is a catalyst. Sometimes it's triggered by a time period, like the same time last year, or an anniversary, or a holiday. So to be aware also of not assuming that whatever you're moving through has anything to do with this current moment or this time. That's a big piece of advice I think I would give to everyone right now.
Because it could be an unconscious thing that you've clicked, that you've seen, that's then gone back to trigger that you know that it's so deeply ingrained. And then
Yes.
yeah, and the emotion code, my lovely, lovely friend Dave the Honey Man, he works with the emotion code. And when he started and he did his pendulum test for the heart wall, his heart wall was 3 miles long.
Oh,
And
I'm
it
sure. Yeah.
literally took him months to like
It-
peeling the onion down and down and down to be zero. But it still goes
oh,
back and he still has
I've
to.
done hours,
Mm,
hours, probably days at this point of work on my walls, my emotional walls. It was a year that straight that I was moving through layers of emotions, using the emotion code methodology.
amazing.
It
It
is
is
unbelievable.
wonderful. It
It
really
is.
is. Yeah. If you could find someone that sort of understands it first, or there probably is a YouTube video that helps you understand the emotions that you're, and sometimes you think, gosh, they're really horrible emotions. And you think, really, is that? But it's not often yours, it's from your ancestors, and it's for you to clear.
Yes. And there's some of the people that I've mentored and some of my groups focus on their modality around the emotion code. And they're wonderful practitioners. It's really nice to have someone actually to hold your hand through that. But it's like tedious work. I remember I used to write down the emotions. You have to really go in, you really got to do the work. And then you actually really got to move it out. So that means you have to look at some of these emotions that are still living in your bodies and fields.
Yeah. Yeah, it really shocks you sometimes. I mean, I worked with Dave for a while where he was doing that for me,
Mhm.
clearing the emotions. It's such a good thing to do.
Yeah,
Um, I might even have the book with me next week for Wednesday, so
okay.
that we can talk about a few of the emotions, because that would be quite
Yeah.
good.
Yes, I feel like that would be a great for anyone looking for something to sort of proactively read or something that you could do. The emotion code is an easy read. It gives you ways to actually move it. And don't worry if you don't have sort of the hematite magnet or whatever that they're asking you to do. You don't need the exact tools. You just need to sort of understand how emotions are stored in your body,
Mm,
um, and just understand that they are stored as walls or fields or mounds of emotions. And these emotions stem from it could be an emotion. So my anxiety yesterday, for example, I checked the origin of it. And it probably because I've done so much work on my own anxiety from my lifetime that yesterday's emotions, but it was still a wall, and it was my heart and my solar plexus, was related to last year at this time. And I was just getting ready to move last year at this time. There was really big things coming. So it made perfect sense that that's what I was feeling. And so the other thing to do is if you can get yourself to a place where you kind of understand those emotions, is even going back to that version of you. you
yes.
know it's not all about your inner child, right? Inner yous from 2 months ago may still need you. So what I understood from that is that that emotion was still living in these places, the solar plexus and the heart. And so so my breathing, my time, I actually went back to that version of me, and I told her where we are now. And I told her
Um,
that this won't be here, very much longer. And I told her, look at where you are, look at where your daughter is, look at how everything has shifted. I brought her here. And
Perfect.
so that's part two of what you can do. So very pragmatically kind of identifying the emotion, what it is, breathing through it, allowing yourself to be objective, not in judgment, you know, and allowing yourself to feel it when you feel it. The other thing I can always say to everybody is it always does pass, right? You're here with us
Always.
listening to this right now. So whenever you've had anxiety, you can look back right now in this moment, this now moment, even if you're watching this on the replay, and I'm telling you, it has passed. Whatever you've experienced in the past is gone. It's moved through. That is a fact, right? So when you're in the throes of whatever you're feeling, and it could be guilt, doesn't always have to be anxiety or, it could be shame. The idea is without judgment and objectively to allow it to come up, to feel it in your body, to know where it lives.
And your inner child was then it felt listened to.
Yeah.
You know,
And
I've done events before where people had never even heard of their inner child. And of course, until you first time you hear of the inner child, you don't even know yourself that that is. But you know, you've heard of the saying, show me the boy at 7 and I'll show you the man. Well, that's
yes.
us, you know, man, woman. Show me at 7 because we're like a sponge until 7. And we've taken in so much and deeply taking that in. And so when something triggers you, you can go straight back to that emotion as a child. And so that's your inner child. And that's what needs nurturing and loving and being healed. And oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's wonderful.
Did you see this comment from Haley? She says, "Do you think positive thinking is just a waste of energy?" Interesting
Oh,
comment.
oh,
Interesting
how
comment.
interesting.
What would you say about that, Jackie?
Oh my goodness. So I'll tell the story about this week. Or Friday, I went to the doctor. I'd not been to the doctor for years. And I didn't even know who my doctor was. And I was sat there because my chiropodist had said I needed to get something checked out about my feet. And I thought, oh, well, we'll just go and ask her. And so I sat in the doctor's surgery, very dark, very lots of brickwork all around, but a very dark place. The receptionist did not look happy. The receptionist that come out of the room didn't look particularly happy, and I don't blame them because everyone in the room was miserable, waiting. They're ill, they're not feeling well, so they're going up to the receptionist already not well. And I'm not saying that's every single person, but it's what I witnessed on that particular day.
Well, and most times when you're kind of in that situation, you're looping in your own how you don't feel well.
Exactly. And they're listening to that all the day, these receptionists. So, yeah, I could quite see that. Anyway, sat there as well. So there's all the dark brick wall, but then there's the poster wall along this side. And every single poster, the first one I see is of a dark man that said about how many men in, you know, that get prostate cancer, specifically dark men, and then specifically white men, and then the different illnesses and Alzheimer's and dementia. My goodness, I was looking at that, like you said about the TV and, you know, programs and what we're being gently hypnotized on. Um, and so I'm looking at all that and thinking, my goodness, there's not one positive poster here. And what a difference that would make. So when I used to run the positive living group, and I did that for 8 years, every single Tuesday night, um, and I used to take all these leaflets. Anyone that used to come along would tell you, I took all my positive sayings that I'd built up over the years, Robert Holden's positive inspirational sayings, motivational sayings, Wayne Dyer, Louise Hay, all those wonderful people, and I'd put them all around the room. So if we had a break time, they'd still be going in, you know. So
Yeah.
then I got into the doctor's surgery. She was fine, didn't not worried about what I'd gone there for at all. So that was fine, you know. And I thought, oh well, at least I've pleased the chiropodist because I've done what she said. And so then I went into the doctor, listened to what she had to say, for all fine. And then I said, I'll just say that I did notice in your waiting room, there's not one positive poster. I didn't see anything that would cheer anybody up. And so I'm going to share the screen because I said I would love to see something like this in the waiting room. Have you ever heard of this one, Alicia?
No,
Smile.
I haven't.
Oh, it's beautiful. Smiling is infectious. You catch it like the flu. When someone smiled at me today, I started smiling too. I walked around the corner and someone saw me grin. When he smiled, I realized I'd passed it on to him. I thought about the smile and realized its worth. A single smile like mine could travel round the earth. So if you feel a smile begin, don't leave it undetected. Start an epidemic and get the world infected.
Love that.
So I thought, gosh, so I said to her, wouldn't it be lovely if you had that? Because it also, you catch it like the flu. It was like being at the doctor's, and that's what brought it to my mind. Spike Milligan wrote it. And well, I believe he did. It said on there that he did. And yeah, so she said, oh, well, I'll pass that on to the committee, see if they'll agree. So yeah, I was going to print it. In fact, I will print it and take it round there, see if they put it
Yeah,
up.
I think you should.
Hmm,
Yes. So to answer your question, Haley, positive thinking is definitely not a waste of energy. Um, it's in fact, if we could all retrain our brains to be in, faith, in joy, if we could retrain our bodies to not pick up on the resonance of our own energy that's still stuck in our bodies or others, um, it is actually the positivity that shifts the vibration, and vibration is everything. And so
absolutely.
if you can genuinely be in positivity, now, having said that, that doesn't mean bypassing the things that come up. Okay. So,
Oh,
so I wouldn't have recommended, when I was moving through the anger and frustration or the anxiety, just try to positive living myself out of it, because that doesn't work. And then you just bury it again. But however, when you do the inner child work, and your child can be any age, mine was a year ago right now, the inner child work, when you
right.
allow her to be heard and seen and felt, and you let her feel your peace, your calm, and then you bring in the gratitude, step number two. So you can even do sort of, a lot of spiritual teachers talk about, I am so grateful for, and speaking. So that is part of it. It's just it's the other side of it. You have to do both, right? It's changing the vibration, allowing it to leave the body. So identifying it, loving on it, breathing it out. Sometimes too, you need to physically move your body to really go. And I had to go for that walk that day. I had to get outside. I had to move. It was freezing out, but I did it anyway. I even went into an infrared sauna that night because a local infrared sauna. I was like, I just need the heat, and so I just listened to what I needed. And then the positivity is actually what closes the loop. So the positivity is, back to, I love my Dr. Hawkins, but, gratitude, gratefulness,
Absolutely.
it's so high on this, his scale of consciousness, and you can kind of almost just feel it. So yeah, that's your answer that's the answer to my question, or to that question, Haley. That no, it is definitely not a waste of energy. In fact, it's the goal.
Oh,
It's
it's
the
amazing.
goal.
It is, honestly. If you're just glancing something like that, that's positive for yourself, and gratitude, a quick thing that went through my mind when you said that, when I've run the happiness courses before, um, and said, write down 10 things. One course that I did, I said, well, write down 10 things you're grateful for. Normally I would say 100, but I just said 10 on this one. And one struggled with 10 because she was thinking of all the big things, the house, the car, the job, all the big things that you get. Whereas my list started with my slippers. I'm trying to
Yeah,
just
love
look at
it.
everything. And I could write 100% in half an hour. I could write 100 things that I'm grateful for. Because once you start looking for the things that you're grateful for, and I've got this right next to my desk.
Oh, I love that. And the angel rings.
Just thank you. Because that's part of Ho'oponopono too. It's just like noticing or just being grateful. So yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
very, very important. Glad you noticed that question. We've actually
Yeah.
oh,
Gone
we've
over a
actually
little
gone
bit.
over the half hour. We're going to try and stick to a half hour just so we don't overdo it each week. Just
Yeah.
drop in bits about this awakening and what awakening means for you. And if you've got any
Well,
questions, message.
and Haley just said, thank you so much. I think I've been burying mine. That makes sense. Yes.
And
Yes.
we're
So
realizing that, being
time to
aware of that.
excavate. Yes, time to excavate a little, right? And so not being even in the guilt of feeling the anxiety or the fear, look at it, love each part of you. There's your homework between this week and next week. Do a little self-reflection, do a little bit of a breathing exercise. Go back to a version of you that may need you, and show that version of you where you are now. Or maybe tap into a future version of you. That's a whole other
And
neat
the whole
exercise.
fact that you're here and listening to this, You know, your light is needed in the world, without a doubt.
Exactly.
Oh,
100.
lovely. Love this idea of doing this every
Beautiful,
week.
beautiful session here today, Jackie.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Alicia. Thank you, anyone that's joined us watching this. It is recorded, and so I'll be putting it on YouTube because it only stays on here for 30 days. So thank you all. Lots of love.
We'll see you next week.
See you next week.